And we are live.
Cool.
It's time.
Welcome to another episode of the Musty Wargamers.
Season 7, Episode 7. And today we have our compadres on. So it is your regular hosts, Rusty and Palmer, and we have Dan and Tim joining us once again.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you very much. And so
another exciting day in the annals of the Musty Wargamers.
I believe we have Chris
more musty than us.
We have Chris at Walkabout Games has joined us. Is in the house.
Striker's
and,
here,
and we've got Mel Striker, and we've got Clark. All right, you guys are timely. Everybody just slipped in there. That's awesome.
All the veterans are showing up.
Yeah,
yes.
All the musties.
Yep.
All of us basement dwellers are crawling out of our little holes and saying hello.
Not wrong.
So, that's right. That's funny. You could either be, we're the Musty Wargamers. You could be referred to as a musty or a wargamer, and so it's naturally we're the musties.
Yeah,
the musties. We like getting musty around.
Well, we've got actually some cool topics tonight, and for those that have just joined us in the beginning of the show, we'll just kind of let you know that I didn't put them up on there, but we've got we're going to do a little bit of an old world update since we've been talking about like just things that have just been coming out. We won't spend too much time on it, but just since it's come out since the last show, we might just chat real quick. But I think the main topics are going to be what they're going to be. One of them is house rules, and basically how much house ruling is okay before you're going too far. This is a matter of opinion, and we'll see how many of those opinions we have tonight. And then the next one is, do you have more than one style of painting for your miniatures? And if so, what are they? And so we'll do our normal updates with everybody. Maybe we'll do just like on the screen. Dan, do you want to? We'll go clockwise, starting with Dan.
Sure.
Do you want to talk a little bit about what you've been up to and confirm if you've had your Roman Coke for the evening?
I had a Jameson and ginger actually with my wife earlier, and so now I'm drinking the Kool-Aid right now just to wet my whistle. So. But basically, big surprise. I'm still doing the same exact thing I was, but making lots of more progress on my Stalingrad buildings. These are some more of those kits that I build. They each, like I said, they just come in individual pieces, and you glue it together however you want. Sort of like Lego type things. Super glue. I'm doing. I don't know if you can quite see. I'm starting to put the mortar in between the brick lines now. Like this is what it looks like before I do it. I just make it real blotchy with paint, and then get the mortar lines, and then I start dry brushing and using powders and inks and just kind of. I've got a technique that actually works pretty good, and I'm trying to do them all the same to finish them up so that they match decent. So that's basically I've gotten several things done that I haven't shown that I don't have here to show, and then I did more buildings. But I also did that children's fountain, this Stalingrad children's fountain that I got from Eureka Miniatures. Beautiful. It turned out great, and it's the best replica I've seen for 28 millimeter children's fountain. It's very. I found a lot of black and white photos of it, and it's very close. So it's pretty. That's pretty cool. So that's basically what I've been working on, getting actually quite a bit of time in each night. You know, it's been wicked cold here, so I've been just snuggling in the basement and getting an hour or two in a night. I'm trying to really stay focused on getting the Stalingrad table not done, but we're pretty happy to actually start playing on it.
I don't know. Have you ever heard of the comedian Stephen Wright?
Yes.
No.
You know, well, he when you said the word replica, for some reason you reminded me of one of his classic jokes where he said, one day I woke up in my room and everything was a perfect replica. I realized everything was a perfect replica. And I couldn't believe it. And then like my roommate came in and I said to him, "Did you realize everything here is a perfect replica?" And he said, "Who are you?"
Oh my.
Anyway,
he was funny. He was very funny.
Anyway, you said the word replica, and for some reason that just kind of triggered me. Yeah,
that's funny.
That is hilarious.
Tim, how about you? What have you been up to?
Well, since I've been gone off for a week, I took some stuff with me when I went to see my grandsons, and I did a lot of assembly while I was down there. You know how Victrix sends their models in bags?
Big bag, the
big bags. So I had 3 bags of Macedonian cavalry to put together, and I've been putting together my Macedonians, and then some what would have been referred to as their heavier Greek allied cavalry. Whoop, let's go this way.
Okay.
And then I have one more bag to do, and I'm going to do them more in like a Tarantine with the shield that was added like in, I think it's like the 3rd century BC when cavalry started adding the shield and taking on that sort of a look. Because up to that point, it was just mainly, hold on and throw sharp, pointy sticks at people. So, yeah. And then right now, I'm painting a Persian war chariot that I primed before I left. So at least I'd have something I'm actually painting and working on. So it's all in pieces on my desk. So, all the horses and everything is just all separate. And then also I primed another 40 pikemen. I've got to that point. I think I've got to that point where if I don't have to do another pike block for a long time,
I'll be happy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be happy if I don't see another pike block for a while. And I really, the problem is this year I thought about doing
more pikes.
Yeah. Yeah, like
spears.
Wars of the Religion, the 30-year, and it's like, do I want to do that? I've already got an English Civil War army, and then the Italian Wars.
You really want to paint a whole bunch of Swiss pikemen with their colorful.
Yeah, I see. I was doing my research. I have like 4 or 5 books. I did a like a little video on it on my channel, and about all my research I was doing. And I think I'm just in pike overload. I need to take a break from that sort of thing. And I think I need to go into some guns. I just guns is, I think that's what I got to get into. And I'm thinking something up to between the English Civil War up to the American Civil War, in that time period.
Okay.
But we're going to take out Napoleonics because the uniforms, the sheer thought gives me a headache.
So what you're trying to say is you want to quote John Wick.
Yeah.
Guns. We need lots of guns.
We need lots of guns. Absolutely.
With a lot of dessert.
Yeah.
And more guns.
How about your musty drink? Are you joining in a musty drink tonight, or are you just sort of?
I had my cinnamon whiskey earlier.
Oh yeah.
And since it's after 10 o'clock here.
Oh yeah, it's late there.
Yeah. If I start drinking, I'll start snoring, and you'll have to get me off. Well, Tim's got to go now because he's passed out.
Falling asleep.
Looks like Bill over at Landsknecht has joined us. Hello, Bill. So how about you, Rusty?
Coming live from the desert. Well, we had a slight little bit of northern weather showed up, so it felt like I was back in Minnesota, like a normal winter. This last week, did a little bit of dashing through the blizzard on Friday.
Mm. Yeah, it's fun.
My daughter was like, I have to get taken to the airport. Okay. Break out the truck. Here we go. Like dashing through the snow.
Yeah. What temperature do you guys get down to in Fahrenheit there?
I think it was like just 18 below. Not
We
bad.
were
Okay,
a little
still pretty
colder.
cold.
I think we were like 24.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
You're
yeah,
out in the countryside. In the city, it doesn't get as cold. So
that's true.
Mhm.
we
Okay.
still have, we're the concrete jungle, so it still stays kind of warm.
It's a little warmer. Yeah.
And you've been putting up on videos, like I know you've been painting your BattleTech as well as the orc spleen Rippa, I think is what it is, right?
Gob
There you go.
Smasher.
Oh, the Gob Smasher.
The Gob
Okay.
Smasher.
Oh,
Gob Smasher 1. Gob Smasher 2.
There you go.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
The yellow.
Let me,
Okay.
Focus in here.
I'm a
there
little
you go.
behind on videos. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, so
Nice.
I finished. Well, this one was the one I finished before we went on Christmas break.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
That one's done. But then here, number 2, I finally finished your little guy here.
I
Nice.
just saw on the Facebook post. Yeah.
They're just slightly different. You know, they have different wheels.
Oh, okay.
Huh. Are they 3D
and you-
prints, resin,
Yes.
or what are they? Okay.
So did you actually get to two different options? Is that why?
Yes.
That's
You
nice.
have 2. You got the bodies are the same, then you got 2 different options when it comes to wheels.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, actually, there's you get your choice. So it's like
So 2 different options, round and round.
Yeah, big round or little round.
Yeah.
And as the wheels go round on the bus. And then I finished these guys this week.
Yeah.
Got some more
Nice.
BattleTech done.
BattleTech.
Nice.
Drink.
Yeah.
This is true. I can't though. I gotta wait till I get to my turn. I haven't poured mine yet.
So I got these guys done. Today has been Mel wanted me to Striker. He came over today, so we spent the day, I think 5 hours. He had a whole bunch of stuff today that he wanted printed off.
Oh,
So
Nice.
okay.
a printing machine. I just not one of the reasons I was a little late to the getting on was I had to go clean up because I just had a whole bunch of vehicles come out of the vat, and I had to get a new print going because he had, I think there was 7 print files I have to go through to get everything out he wants me to do.
Wow.
So there's
You're
a lot.
having pretty good luck. You got that kind of figured out now, huh? The printing,
Yeah, it's fairly easy once you figure out how to do it. It's
get
just
the
like
settings and stuff right, and
once you got your
You're-
settings, you don't mess with them. It's like
yeah.
it just keeps going.
Well, that's
And
good.
then-
I'm glad to hear.
I've been working on these guys. There's my started my chariot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, old world.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, I saw that.
Old
Nice.
world.
Oh man, it brings back memories.
Yeah. So I have these guys that I do have 4 more chariots that I have to. I cured them today, so I have to start working on getting the. So I got a bag of chariot bases that need to be
Yeah.
put to good use. I got
Nice.
20 of them. So hey, you got 20 bases, you might as well make 20 chariots, right?
I don't
Yeah,
think
that's
I've seen you have a Tomb King army pretty much or not? I don't
Yeah.
know if I've seen you post a video of that. Have I?
There is a video on my channel of my Tomb King army.
Was it?
Yeah,
Did you do it with your undead all together? Was that?
Just
I
the
remember your
Tomb
undead
Kings.
one.
Yeah, that wasn't that long ago, right? Like maybe in the last month regarding the old world, or am I wrong?
No,
Well,
this
was it-
video
oh,
was about 3 years ago.
Oh, then that would have been when you got in and you got those that special unit, the guys that were kind of the tall skeleton guys that are decked out.
That you had
Um,
3D printed by somebody else.
Yeah,
that you
and when you
copied.
did that, you kind of brought those
An
guys, your
optic
army out.
guard.
Yeah.
Were they?
okay.
They weren't. Did you also paint Ushabti at one point?
Yeah, I got a bunch of Ushapti guard
Yeah. I
that
remember
are actual GW ones. I have a whole bunch of them. I finally painted those up.
Yeah, I remember that.
I
Okay,
had
I do
my,
remember that.
finished painting up the Bone Giant,
Yeah.
Oh
that's
yeah.
right.
and then I did. I think it was 2019 is when I did Nagash.
Oh yeah. I remember that too. Classic.
And I did a Army on Parade for Tomb Kings. So they're somewhere on my channel. If you type in Tomb Kings, they'll pop up.
I'll have to refresh my memory on it. Yeah.
So now it's just finish these chariots out. And I got 4 more I have to base out, and that'll give me a 10 chariot unit. And I have some sword and board guys I have to base out to make some Tomb King infantry. And
so on to the part that
I got about 40 or 50 archers.
On to the part that we all care about. What is your musty drink tonight?
I thought you were going to say, what base size are you using?
Yeah, right. Oh, there you go. Yeah. So you got, Caribbean Smooth.
Huh.
Yeah. Nice. Dewar's Caribbean Smooth.
So it's Dewar's, like your typical Dewar's White that's been not fermented, but aged in Caribbean rum cask.
Nice.
So that's probably you get some rum aspects with the smokiness of your typical, what do you call it? Dewar's White.
Nice. Well, I will go next. I don't remember if I did it. I don't think I did a video on this. I think I just showed it on the Facebook page, but I haven't done my weekly update for the painting challenge. I have to probably do one this weekend, put a video up where I'm at, but it'll probably be the end of this stage that I'm at now with this tank. But I have, this is my tank that I have where I just did a brown wash.
Yep.
And so it's just a brown wash. Just sort of darken it up. It's got a little bit of, you could definitely see around the edges like you normally would do a brown wash. So like you've got in the creases there, like your dirt and contrast and stuff. But this is sort of a completed tank of mine in the past. And the thing that was interesting to me is as I was doing it, I was like, these look like 2 different colors. Like, so I'm doing this, I'm doing this one. And I'm like, oh man, like it's 10 years since I've done this. And this doesn't look like the same green. I'm like, you know what, in the end of the day, it's going to be what it's going to be. I'm just trying to, because I never wrote down from a decade ago, like what my recipe was. And so I was like thinking about this. They're both Shermans here. The thing that's interesting, this color right here, I did my final whitewash on it. And it ended up looking like this.
Damn.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that if you look at this, which is not a Sherman, it's got the Sherman body, and then if you look at the one that I did from years ago, now they're really starting to look kind of
dusty,
similar.
Yeah, they look like they match, go together.
More so.
Yep.
Because the brown violet is the official color of
the Vallejo brown violet.
Is more brown than it is green.
Mm-hmm. So basically that's kind of where I'm at with that. So I'm just kind of working these ones up, and they look more like oxidized, like they've been rained on and kind of rusty, I think, just not rusty, but just like that weather look.
I like the look. Yep.
Yeah, I kind of like it too. And then with the decal underneath it, it kind of, you can't really see it here very well, but it's not like a perfect looking decal. It looks fairly weathered underneath it. So with that.
Nice.
So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And then I'll just zoom back out here. What I'm doing as far as so I'm going to continue with that tonight. Because like I was telling you guys before the show, it took me about an hour. It takes me about an hour to do a tank like that with that whitewash, because you basically put the oil on and then you spend the rest of the time spreading around and trying to get it off. And then it basically looks like this film, like over it, and it just takes a long time. Hopefully I'll be quicker at it tonight than I was 2 days ago or whatever. Tonight I'm having an old favorite. As far as the drink, I'm having a Suntory whiskey Toki tonight. So Japanese whiskey.
And light and fruity.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that is now I'm able to go back and sip to BattleTech.
Cheers.
Cheers.
What I might do real quick before we hit the old war discussion is quickly catch up on the comments. I am going to sort of skip the hellos and the pleasantries that we share with each other. Mel just quickly was talking about our future topic coming up, My House, My Rules, Like It or Lump It. And we'll get back to that. Bill says, I have a Swiss pike army painted up in reference to Tim's discussion on pikes. It's also super cold at 61 degrees Fahrenheit in Tucson. Mel says, Rusty the Goliath is a pain to put together.
No kidding.
Chris says, I've been painting so many things from post-apocalypse to ACW. We got a discussion going on that. Bill asking which rules, and looks like it's hot lead and cold steel, which is, I guess, an Osprey game.
Osprey,
yeah, what Bill said. So, lightning round of catching up on comments. And I guess what we were going to talk about real quick is the Old World has come out since our last show. And I know we've all been talking about it a lot, and it might be hard to remember exactly what we talked about on the last show. But as I remember correctly, none of us were really committed to anything. Like on the last show, we were just sort of like positives and negatives, about it, like the negatives about like what could go wrong being GW, and then also like just financial considerations and a number of things, bases and stuff. But then positives of like supporting the game that we all like, which is Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and have a lot of nostalgia with, and just keeping an eye on it. And maybe we'll get some cool old miniatures in the process and stuff. I don't know if that's a good summary or not, but and then like I think we're all just like thinking about maybe whether we just get the rules, that's it, use our old armies. But now it's come out and it's been all over YouTube. There's been like battle reports. There's been people showing off their stuff. There's been speculation about the future. Lots of naysayers from people that never really liked Warhammer Fantasy Battle to begin with.
Yeah.
Really?
And then there's also naysayers, of course. There are folks that, liked it, but are still not happy about it for one reason or another. But I do find it funny that there are people that never liked it to begin with, and like they need to really go out and tell people that it's not good.
Don't waste your time on this. What's fun is having all these miniatures.
And so, with all that said, who'd like to jump in and just kind of give their impression of the last couple weeks?
Well, let's just say, after I saw some of the undead, and I'm very nostalgic because the undead was the very first army. I mean, back before there was a split in the undead.
Yeah,
I did the undead, and it was the very first army I bought. And seeing the Tomb Kings with some of the old models that I've had and I've since parted ways with, kind of was a little bit of a pang, and it's like, oh, I remember that. I'll remember the games, but I'm still going to hold off a little bit. I think I want to get the rule book. I want to read through it. I want to see what it is, and then kind of judge what direction they're going to go with it. Because this rule set will basically set the tone for the future with it.
Right.
And I think I want to see that, have it in my hand, read it before I make a commitment. Now, would I do Tomb Kings again? Probably not. I think maybe this time, because I had a Bretonnian army at one point in time, but it was never painted. Bits and pieces, and then I got distracted into chaos and
squirrel.
Yeah, pretty bad that way with Warhammer Fantasy. I just want to read the rules first, and I'll probably do armies that if I do get into it, that I didn't do before. And there's only like a handful of those that I didn't do. So
well, that's kind of cool because
I've already got Chaos, Ogre Kingdoms, and Empire in my cabinet. Thousands of points worth. So I'm not gonna do add to that much. But maybe like with the Bretonians, I might delve into doing an actual Bretonian army. But
there you go.
I don't know. We'll see. But I want to read the rules first before I make a commitment.
One of the nice things by doing a new army is you can kind of scratch that itch for something you always wanted to do, but 10 years later, who knows whether you're ever going to be able to do it again because they canceled it. So that's kind of cool.
Yep.
Anybody, with the Bretonians, I was always intimidated with the heraldry and all that kind of, because that many years ago I hadn't had that much actual serious painting underneath my belt. And so I kept thinking I wanted to, but I just knew I wouldn't do them justice. And that's one of those armies that is just like with Dan's. When Dan shows it's like that's the way it's supposed to look. It's supposed to have that color and that presence on the table. And I knew back then I couldn't pull that off. I wouldn't have been able to pull it off. Now I give myself a fighting chance.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. That's a cool take on it. And so what about who else wants to jump in?
Well, this week I spent some time chatting with Brad about it, and he wanted to get into Dark Elves for his army, and I was like, so then we had a discussion because I got a fairly large Dark Elf army, and I was like, yeah, it'd be kind of nice to get back into finish painting my Dark Elves and throw them on the table. And then we were looking at everything and come to find out that Dark Elves are one of those armies that they're not going to support.
Right.
So
you get an initial PDF, but they're not going to support it further. Yeah.
And I got a feeling is that what they're going to do is just see where the wind blows, and if it actually takes off like it used to, for them to actually go back and support it. Maybe they'll keep expanding the whole thing. So they'll bring in all those art because they had the what was the Saurians? What's those guys again? The lizard men.
Oh, the lizard men.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not supporting the lizard men. The
vampire counts.
The
vampire. They're not doing vampire counts.
Yeah. So they're pretty much ignoring the origin of the undead, which started with the vampire counts, but because if you look at all the history of it, because it was the vampire counts that forced and which caused the Tomb Kings to come into existence. But and I have a soft spot for the vampire counts because I started it playing undead back in 3rd edition, 4th edition, and
when there was no separation.
They were one army.
All undead. Yep.
The armies of the undead. So it didn't matter what your army looked like. You could have a little bit of everything as long as it was undead.
Remember those units of mummies?
Oh, yeah, I have a big unit. Of
you have a ton of those gold metal ones.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
And I was really disappointed when they split the armies and the Tomb Kings no longer had mummies.
Yeah, what was up with
that? The shock troops that you had for your undead army.
Well, how can you not have mummies?
Characters, you know what I mean? Like unit leaders or something. They should have been in there somewhere, other than just the generals.
So what I'm hearing from you, Rusty, just correct me if I'm wrong. I'm hearing that you're kind of a no-go at the moment.
Well, I'm going to probably pick up the rule book
Yeah.
And the Tomb King's army book, because obviously I like the Tomb Kings. That's always been my primary army I always played. And so I'll eventually get those two and go from there and to see where the wind's blow, because I do have a fairly small, it's not really large, it's a decent sized dwarven army. I got my elves, I got my high elf army, and I got my I got a kind of a small Bretonnian army, not anything compared to what Dan has, but though I pretty much, I think I had the only army I no longer have is I got rid of my ogre kingdom, because I started collecting up the beginning of an ogre kingdom army, and then that's when they flushed fantasy. So I was like, well, I don't have enough of it started to even bother. So I just sold that off, and I do have a small chaos dwarf army.
Okay.
Which I kind of, well, at one time I had a fairly large chaos dwarf army until it got sold. Disappeared into the ethers.
Made somebody happy.
Yeah. One of the things where you take and play one of your games at the game shop, and then
there it is.
And someone just probably, well, after I packed it up, they just grabbed it and took off with it.
Yeah.
Right out of my case.
Really?
Yeah. It's not the first time I had stuff disappear over at the game shops.
Huh.
Yeah, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
I'd be devastated.
It's like, oh, those are kind of cool. So I just started buying them.
Did you have the bull, that big red bull thing?
Yeah.
What was the bull called?
The Bull Taurus. Then there's the Lamassu was also.
The Lamassu. Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
That's right.
I do have the Forge World Bull Centaur, the big giant one that's with the guy on top, the big wizard guy. And I do have some, because that's where they went to, is they started going towards it was a Forge World army. So I started buying the resin kits.
Looks like Joshua's joined joined in the chat.
Hey, Josh.
How about you, Dan? What is your thoughts now that it's been out a couple weeks?
Well, yeah, I followed it quite a bit on YouTube and Facebook. I mean, it is, like you said, it's just lit up. And there were, some of the influencer YouTube channels and stuff were getting games in, before the pre-order dropped too. And so,
yeah, because they were given stuff,
which is fine. But anyway, so you kind of were getting a sense of how the rules a little bit played. And I guess overall, I kind of like what I'm seeing. I mean, at least it's not like a non-starter for me, because the whole time ever since 2019 when they announced it, I was intrigued and interested, and at times sort of excited, but excuse me, with tons of apprehension, because I didn't want to. I knew what I wanted it sort of to be, in the direction I'd like to see it go, but they didn't indicate. So I was just kind of following along and seeing where it went. And different times it's funny, they would post an announcement or show some pictures of miniatures or whatever they do, and I'd be like, you know what, I think I'm out. I don't think that's going the way I want it to go. And then I don't know, and I don't think it's because of the new shiny thing, but then I'd get kind of drawn back in. There'd be something else. I'm like, well, okay, no, I kind of like that though. So I was always kind of just there. And then when they got ready to do the pre-orders, I went back and forth, and finally I'm like, you know what, at some point I'm going to end up with the rule book and then the army book that includes the Bretonnian. So the force, what do they call it? Was the Forces of Fantasy. That's what it's called. It's the good book. And then the evil book is
the Ravening Hordes.
Yeah, something like that. But anyway, so it's got multiple all the good armies are in the Forces of Fantasy or something like that. But anywho, so I thought, you know what, just for the fun of it, and yes, I could wait a while and maybe get it discounted somewhere. I'm just gonna pre-order it. Gosh darn it, why not? That's not that much money. I'm gonna get it sometime anyway, and I can start. The big thing I was interested kind of to get the army list in base size official for my Bretonians, so I could, because that's where I would go, and I wanted to see, okay, because I've got a bunch painted, and from what I'm seeing, basically I have a playable army right now, but I thought, well, I'd like to add a few things that I've got in my stash unpainted. What should I start with? Should my infantry units be more than 20? So should I paint another 10 and paint them the same way to go with that unit, or do I want to paint up a couple of my old metal Pegasus Knights and do that or whatever? So, but anyway, long story short, I went on and I went on early, and it's like you can't. It said, the pre-orders are not open yet in the U.S. until noon. But I was already hearing buzz that in New Zealand, I think, is where it first dropped, and things were selling out like instantly. And so I thought, well, I'm going to get on. I had the time. I was by the computer, and so I did. I went on, and right at noon, and it said that there was about an hour queue, and I thought, okay. Whatever. Just see what happens. So it was about 40 minutes later. So it's about 20 to 1. Opened it up at noon. 20 to 1. Or no, 25 to 1. I got in, and you're just trying to figure the site out, and get in and see what the pricing actually was on some of the miniatures and things. And I knew what I wanted. I had it in my cart. I was getting my address put in. And one of the items in your cart is no longer in stock. And it was the rule book. So 45 minutes in, I could no longer pre-order the rule book in the United States, which whatever. And so then I was like, well, then screw it. I'm not going to get just that. It was going to be free shipping and, from direct. And so I just said, forget it. That's fine. And then of course I've been following since. Is it did they create the FOMO on purpose? Did they underestimate the interest? GW tends to create FOMO. Anyway, I don't care about any of that, whatever. But so I thought, well, that's fine. But I still, even after the excitement of, the big pre-order and all that, I still am going to get those 2 books. And I envision just getting some spaced movement trays, put my 20 mil bases in there and run it just like that. And for me, I think there's 2 things that are exciting. One, I do live fairly close to some game shops in Omaha. I mean, they're like an hour and 15 minutes away. I mean, that's relative close. I mean, I can get there. So there'd be chances I could get games in. And that Bug Eater that I go to, that tournament every year in Omaha for the bolt action, at some point, they have Kings of War already and a bunch of other games. So likely they'd be there. So if I wanted, realistically, I could get some games in of that. And then I think the other thing that was interesting to me was I remember when I got into fantasy was back in 5th edition, but I was buying the models. I'd painted a handful, never played a game, and it was back in that time frame. I didn't have the internet. I didn't know, you couldn't find out about stuff. I didn't have time and or cash to be doing that. The kids were small. So it was just sort of like boy, I'd love to do this, but so I just hung on to it, which was fine. And I had a subscription to White Dwarf, which would keep my living vicariously through others basically. And
keeping your toe in the water.
Yeah. Just kind of keep abreast of what was going on and occasionally picking up some Bretonians that were, getting put in the sale bin because 6th edition had dropped by, 2000 and the new Bretonians in 2002, I believe. And so, but I remember being disappointed on the direction they took the Bretonians in 6th edition, but also again, things hadn't changed really for me. So I couldn't really participate, when this new game came out. And actually I remembered seeing people play it in the game shops because once or twice a year I'd get to one to pick up some paints or something because I was dropping somebody off at the airport and I'd just buzz over to be some reason like that, and I thought, oh man, so now I guess for me, I'm like, okay, maybe this time literally I can play fantasy while it's live and while it's happening, and it doesn't owe me anything. I've got my models that I've got. By the rule books, it looks like it's a solid game, whether I love it or not. That there's something there, and then maybe be able to play some games and partly just sort of do what I wished I could have done 25 years ago, because I never really got to play.
Right.
So for me, that's kind of my view. I'm still just like, whatever they do. And if they release a few, I'm interested. It's surprising to see the old metal Squires from 5th edition are back. At least the command models and 3. It's unclear if there's more than 3 regular sculpts, or if they brought, I think there's like 15 actual different sculpts, which I've collected through the years. So I don't know what'll be there, but that's pretty exciting. What else will they bring back? Because they've hinted at some more announcements of some other classic, miniatures possibly coming back. So I thought, that'd be kind of fun, and mostly just a bit of a nostalgia trip and maybe a chance to get some games in with the Bretonians that I've painted, and that's what when I get done with my Stalingrad table, that's where I'm coming back to. I've got some plans of what I want to start painting up next with the Bretonians, because I've had them sitting for way too long. It's been a couple years since I've painted any, or coming up on. So
that's good to get the inspiration.
Yeah, I think that's part of what it is. Just gave me the inspiration, and if I ended up playing 5th or 6th instead, doesn't matter. My models will work anyway. So. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think it's fun. I'm going to enjoy it for what it is. I'm not going to be negative. If I enjoy the game, I enjoy the game. If I don't, it's inspired me to get back to painting my Bretonians, which is what I loved doing anyway. So, yeah, we'll see where it leads. No expectations.
Cool. I got a question about,
yeah.
So you were just recently on the GW website.
Yeah.
And I haven't been on the GW website in forever and a day.
Okay.
And I'm like on there and I'm looking at it going, what the heck did they do to this site?
Yeah, they redid it just in the last month or something like that. Everybody's been bitching about it. They're like, what kind of rookies did this?
It makes zero sense. I was like, I'm looking around trying to find miniatures, and I'm like, where the heck are the miniatures?
Yes, it's hard. It is really, and it'll be fine probably once I get used to it, but it is not intuitive at all. I don't know what happened there. I don't know.
Yeah, I was like, I was lost for a while until I figured out what the heck I was looking for.
Yeah. So what about you, Palmer?
Wrapping up this thing. Well, one of the things I forgot to do is when I talked about an update today, I forgot to mention that I actually had a 2,000 point game on Warhammer Fantasy Battle 6th edition on Saturday, and
I'm jealous every time you say that.
and I actually played against ogres for the first time, and that was interesting. They're tough, and so my opponent had used them. He used this army 3 times now. I guess I was his 3rd battle, and we did play. We rolled on the table. It was a pitch battle, like your typical battle, but we did play all of the rules to, if you had a unit uncontested in this quadrant, you got an extra 100 points. If you did this, you get 50 points. So it wasn't just who had more points at the end. It was a combination of things. Right. We had a neck and neck drag out to the very end battle that actually on paper was a draw. I had, by the points, out of 2,000, I probably had less than 50, the difference between the two of us. And so it was considered a draw. So it was actually a really good battle. My opponent friend that I played against and I, we just really enjoyed ourselves. And now the reason I tell you this in the context of this is that there is not a huge split in my gaming group, but there is those of us that are kind of interested in really trying the old world, and then those of us that are sort of we've been on the show where it's we'll see where it goes. Like we'll kind of keep an eye on it. We're not really kind of making a total commitment either way, but we're not saying no. And then there's one that is sort of like, I feel like I found my edition in 6th edition. It's taken a year to really kind of get comfortable with the rules, to where, and now like I'm not really that looking forward to starting Old World, to be honest. I'd rather just stick with 6, And so that's kind of where we're at. So, which is fine because I think all of us are going to continue playing 6th edition. Like we all really like it. And however, some of us will perhaps try the Old World. One of the things he said before I talk about my opinion on the Old World stuff coming out is he said, because he has a lot of good points. Like in a lot of ways, what he says is a lot of things that I say on my videos about why I do less games and choose one rule set and things like that. Is he said, like I just like with the amount of fun that we just had today, like with 6th edition, he's like, with everything that we're going to have to invest in financially and then learn the other rule set and run it side by side and know both of them. He's like, I don't think that we're going to have that much more fun. Like, he's like, I honestly think that this has been so much fun. Can you really imagine having that much more fun than what we just had? And he's probably right. To be quite fair. Yeah. There's a lot of reasons to get the Old World game but it probably is not like, if you were to take your favorite version of Warhammer Fantasy Battle that you really like and like you walk away from its sight, it's probably only going to equal it. Yes. That's probably the best you can hope for. Not to say it's not going to be the best version, but even if it is the best version, if you already had a best version, it's probably only going to be like that much better, like almost unnoticeable, And so I think he has good points in that. So having said that, so even before I played that game and then since, like there is the newness there is the newness of it, the fact that it's like plastic crack or just like new things to get, like a new version, like it's the FOMO, that is exciting. And I'm no different than anybody else. Like I'm excited to see that Warhammer Fantasy Battles continuing, and you want to support it. Like you don't want to, on a philosophical level, I don't want to punish GW for actually like supporting the type of game that I like. Like I kind of think I like to support that, and one of my other friends kind of said that, like, I really just want to support GW and doing this, like, like rather than just keeping it just be Age of Sigmar and not having the Old World, I'd like to support them, for doing this. And I kind of understand that at a certain level. I also, there's a certain amount, they did change the rules in a number of things enough. Like even Orcs and Goblins don't have animosity anymore, even though they have some other rules that make them like kind of almost go after things on a certain dice roll. It's not animosity, and you're not as some people really like animosity, and it's been a classic thing for Orcs and Goblins, but some folks, that sometimes don't, just because like the rule set, you oftentimes play Orcs and Goblins for the character and the fun, but sometimes at a certain level people get tired of some of it. And so that they're doing different things, like and sometimes like people want to just try their army out with some of these new ways that they're going, because there are some unique things that they seem to be making a change on, like even the way Magic is done is like totally different to the way it's been done recently. And so so some folks just want to try that, which I understand, and I'm not immune to that, like wanting to just try something different. The other thing too is when a new rule set like this comes out, it makes me think maybe I'll just like one of these armies that I've not fully painted and committed for 6th edition, I might just use for Old World. And so for me, that one of them is High Elves and one of them is Orcs and Goblins. Now, I don't think I'm going to change any of my armies or do any of my armies with just the strict Old World basing. Like I think I'll do it as 6th edition and then use inserts and trays. But I was thinking maybe of pulling out my Orcs and Goblins and doing some painting and getting my Orcs and Goblins ready at one point for when the Orcs and Goblins get released. And then still, I'm excited about the idea of the new models coming out or I should say the old models is what I'm more excited about, bringing back the old ones. And so where I'm sitting right now is like, I still want to basically play sixth. And if anything, like that would be my number one thing, is that I don't want to abandon it at this point, but I'm also not giving up on the idea of doing it, just because I'm sort of subject to a lot of the stuff that other people are, with the FOMO and just wanting to support the release and fantasy being back played again. I just kind of like that, and I want to be a part of that in some ways.
Yep.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I was a little all over the place. I don't know if, like I said to Rusty, I said, after hearing what he was saying, and I kind of felt like it was a little like more towards not doing it. I still wasn't sure based on what he said, and I'm not sure if I was clear either.
Well, for me, I was chatting with Dan tonight while we're sitting there eating our dinner. I was really intrigued with that one model that they have for the Tomb Kings, which they never had a bone dragon like that before.
Yeah.
They had the one for the vampire counts, which was the
zombie dragon.
Zombie dragon.
Yeah.
So now we have a bone dragon. And I'm like looking at that thing going, you know what? That's probably going to find its way into my army.
Yeah.
Because we had the Necrosphinx before, which was kind of our dragon, but it wasn't on a dragon.
Like a classical dragon type thing.
Yeah. So I look at that going, yeah, I can see myself picking one of those up just for the sake of, because I like dragons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks like a cool model.
Yeah. So just for the sheer thing, that's probably one thing I might pick up. And it's kind of, what, $150 model, most likely.
Ouch.
I never looked on the site, Rusty, because like the general for the Bretonians you can buy separately. Can you buy that one separately now? It would show the price. The Bretonian general is $60. The big new sculpt.
I never got past looking at the $275 starter army for the.
Yeah, but you also got to remember that's with that full hardcover rule book.
Yeah.
So that's which they're selling for $70. 70 is what they're selling it for. 50 for the army book.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying that makes it worth it at all. Yeah. And some people are trying to decide, what are they going to do? Are they going to release each army with the rules and a starter, or what are they? Or is this just the only 2 starter armies? And then they'll have, because it sounds like Saturday they were planning to release they announced their next army they're going to release, and people are speculating dwarves.
Yeah, so it's going to be dwarves.
Will that be
the orc armies?
Yeah, but will that have a rule book in it too, or are those just going to be armies then? I don't know. I'd cheapen it down if they didn't put the book in there.
Yeah,
but this makes you buy the miniatures if you think it's a good deal. So yeah, it's a business decision with them, obviously.
And if GW does like they normally do, the starter army like that will be a short-term thing. Will they recycle a new army, starter army will come out, like the orcs and goblins and dwarves.
Yeah, maybe they're saying it's not going to be limited production.
Yeah,
whatever that means. That's what their announcement was.
So does that just mean that like after the next box set comes out, you can't get the other one? Because that's the way it was kind of with Kill Team, if I remember right. Yeah. Like it's sort of like you can't get it anymore because they stopped that one. So they're just going to keep it out there.
Well, that's hard to say if they're going to do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I would think they wouldn't do that at least for the first year, and then maybe they would. I don't know.
I kind of wondered if they'd continue to put the hardback rulebook into each release if they're really expecting people to get all the boxes. They're not going to want to buy.
That's my thinking. So these just going to be the 2 that include the rulebook, but then that makes that starter army more expensive than the other ones. You know what I mean? So
but one of them's already more expensive than the other one.
Yeah,
one was gigantic... $2.25. The Bretonians were $2.25.
They're $2.55.
Okay, guess I'm looking at a wrong website then.
At least that's what I remember seeing. And then I thought it was $2.55 and $2.85 is what I was thinking it was. but don't quote me on that.
255, 285.
Yeah, but the yeah,
Forget.
it's fine. It's fine. Let it go. but the Bone Dragon's that giant model, where the general model for the Bretonians is just the Lord on the Royal Pegasus, so it's not near
it's
as much
not
of a kit.
Which is difference in the price right there.
Yeah, because $60 is how much you can buy the general on the Royal Pegasus, the new plastic kit. So yeah.
So I will be getting the rule book, and I will be getting the army book at some point.
Yeah.
Now, almost everything that's in that starter army I have already. So that's
See, I don't need anything there either.
Yeah.
And I actually like the 5th edition better. So.
What did you think about the new Lord with the guy holding the sword, Dan, for the Bretonians they just leaked?
That on foot there. It's from 2008.
The new one. No, the guy with. Oh, is that from 2008?
The one that they just revealed this week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's an old one, huh?
That was sculpted in 2008, hand sculpted in 2008, and they found the old mold, cleaned it up. It had been sculpted by, I forget what the guy's name was, and they actually talked to him in the Old World article that GW released. And it was going to be released for Games Day, but there was another one. They ended up picking, for whatever the reason, there was a Chaos General or Chaos Warrior, which they showed that picture, and that's the one that they used, and this one never got released then.
Oh, well, then even though it's sculpted, then it's still an opportunity to get something new, I guess.
Yeah, and so for me, I guess, again, I mean, it's not like it's going to be $85. Yes, it looks like an older sculpt, but to me, it looks like a 6th edition, which I'm not in love with 6th edition sculpts. I still not. I mean, the Bretonians. I still love the 5th. The 5th, I just love them. So, but I would probably pick it up. I mean, even if it was $20, just because it's sort of a piece of the Bretonian history. But it does look like one of the 6th edition sculpts that I don't care for as much. But that's just me. Some people love them more, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a matter of.
I am on the website now.
What's it saying? GW's website there?
Yeah, it is $290 now for the core.
Undead?
Yeah.
It was $285 on the pre-order.
Yeah.
How much I do know. What's the Bretonian then?
Let me check here.
See if I'm off on that.
Tomb Kings is $290.
Okay.
The Bretonian one is $255 now.
Okay, that's still $255. That was $255, but I thought, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was $290. I thought it was $285. Doesn't matter. $5, I guess. But
all right. Well, we're finishing the first hour, and maybe what I'll do is quickly do some comments just on a lot of them. I think are around the old world discussion. Just coming up here, and then we'll get on to our first topic of the evening of our 2 topics. Just going through here, and what I've got. Yes, I'll probably try Valor and Fortitude. This is back quite a bit before the old world discussion. When Jarvis Johnson finishes the army list, this is referring to the Osprey game that Chris is doing, Hot Lead and Cold Steel. Bill says, just got my hands on Blood and Steel by Firelight Games, which I may use for ACW. And now we got into the GW discussion with the old world. Clark says, the nice thing about not getting support for your faction from GW is that you don't have to pay a bunch of extra rule books. The community will take over balance, I'm sure. So that must have been talking about maybe Rusty's comment about Tomb Kings and not Tomb Kings, but like the Lizard Man and like all the ones that they're not
unsupported.
They're not supporting. And then where Joshua came in and Bill says, I understand the basing for Old World is different from Warhammer Fantasy Battle. I believe I would need to rebase my orcs and goblins. Well, the thing about that is that there's a lot of aftermarket support for basically inserts into movement trays of your old models. And also probably there probably is going to be just plain old inserts for your heroes and things too that you could just go in. But one of the big things right now, it's even 3D printing. Since I know you 3D print, there's already folks making STLs, Mini Wargaming, and I'm not plugging them. They've not paid me to say this, but Mini Wargaming, because like the amount of people that watch our show, like they're going to just assume that we're trying to make tons of money by me plugging a product.
Absolutely. We obviously are.
How dare you, Palmer?
Yeah, exactly. But Mini Wargaming, they've got some STLs you can just buy from them, and they're doing that. And so that allows you, because I'm probably also not planning on changing my basing and just trying to go the movement tray route.
By movement tray spaced, yeah.
Yeah. And then Joshua says, I am optimistic about the Old World release as the rules look to have taken some good things from 3rd edition Fantasy Battle. Reserve moves for 1 looks interesting. Great for slow armies. That's true.
Dwarves,
yeah.
Chris says, Kickstarter up right now with insert movement tray STL for the new rules. Okay. Basing sucks though. I hate using this is Joshua. I hate using movement trays, and now that you are required to use 25mm basing on infantry, I will need some uglier movement trays. Some more uglier movement trays. And
unless you have chaos and orc armies, you don't have to worry about rebasing.
Really?
Well, I noticed that the Beastmen, there's a large percentage of the army that I didn't have to rebase. Like Gores are staying, I think it's Gores are staying at 25, or Ungores are, but not going up to the 30. And so or they said you could do either, or something like that is what they'd said on it. But there's a lot that you still have to.
It's like a 30 mil base. That's huge.
Yeah.
Compared to the 20s and 25s, you know.
Josh says, hey, Palmer, I want to ask you about your headset you use for painting. Does the visor cover over your glasses? I'm looking to get a new magnifying headset and wonder what you are using here. It's funny you say that, because we were actually chatting about that recently on one of our recent shows. And because tonight I'm actually not really painting, I'm really just I'm actually putting oil on tanks and moving the oil around, and I'm not really doing any fine detail work. I don't have this on. I usually do. We had a discussion about this. I'm just putting this on. This does go over my glasses. Now, my other pair, these are just old glasses that I use that are a bit better for up close. My day-to-day glasses are bifocals, and they actually, they're not great for painting because I use them both for reading, but then also for seeing forward. So this set of frames I have here are covered. Because this is the only thing that I use and I've ever used, I do like this, but I can only really use this is what they call an Optivisor was the brand name. And it has basically two types of lenses that you can use. One is 2 times and one is 3 times. The thing about the 3 times is that you'd think I'd want to use that one, like the stronger one. The moment I use the 3 times, it actually changes the field of focus. And so I actually have to paint like this close if I use the 3 times, which does not work. With the 2 times, I can actually have it out to about here and paint. With the 3 times, I have to go like this, and that just doesn't work. And so I use glasses with the 2 times. Now, from everything I've heard, the ones that Tim has on, people seem to like more or really like. And I don't know the brand name of it. I think I've seen them on Amazon. Tim, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I got these on Amazon. I really like. They come with different sets of magnifiers. Comes with a little case. Hold on a second.
And you've not had that issue from what we said, where you have to move it closer, like your focal point doesn't change based on the strength of it.
And it comes with like a little case of different magnifying options.
Oh, sweet.
Okay, so yeah, you can get different levels of magnification for whatever you maybe like. I haven't ever tried these with my glasses on because I really don't need them to do that. But yeah, that's I really enjoy it. These are the most comfortable magnifying glasses I use for painting that I've ever owned.
Hey Tim.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you get an opportunity, Tim,
Yeah.
post those up on the Musty Wargamers page.
Yeah, do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that would be good. That'd be
Yeah,
good.
Link or whatever.
These are
So I thought-
really comfortable. I got these probably. I had another pair. I think I got an off brand. They looked exactly like these, and they kept breaking right here at this joint. But these are really solid, and I'll post the brand that I have on right now.
They're also extremely attractive.
I'm sure that they are. I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Like all optivisors.
Yes. Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
at least in certain circles.
Yeah.
Get
So
the
we're
visor
trying to
in.
say if you're a cyborg, it's really good.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So I thought I would just add that point because I think if I was to get another set, I'd be looking at the ones that Tim had. I probably will upgrade at one point to those. Chris says, "Hey Palmer, it looks like Sentry Box is not getting Old World due to weather issues in the U.S." That's interesting. I haven't looked at their site or their Facebook page to know that. So that's actually didn't even know that. And so, to be quite fair, it kind of shows how much I've been. Like I've not been chomping at the bit. Like I know you, Dan. Like you were kind of really seriously looking into it on the website.
Yeah,
so I've not attempted to buy it. Like I was planning on waiting for the dust to settle at the very least. And so
Sure.
but that's interesting to know.
I've heard a lot of places were going to be in that same boat. They aren't going to have it on Saturday because of between the weather and the Martin Luther King holiday on Monday. They just got behind.
Chris says it was on Facebook that they put it on there. One of the largest, if not at least one of the largest game stores in the world, Sentry Box here in Calgary. Yeah. And
all I know is that when last Saturday I hopped onto the website, and after 10 minutes of figuring out what the heck I was looking at,
You're not wrong.
Everything was out of stock, so I was like, oh, okay, I'm not even bother. So
yeah,
I'll just
did
wait.
yourself a favor.
Bill says, my wife wanted to let everyone know that she painted her first miniature 2 days ago. Awesome.
Good for her.
What miniature was it? Yay,
and
Bill's
did she
wife.
like it? Is she one and done?
Is it now ready to paint more, or is that the last one?
Yeah.
Thank you, Palmer and Tim. Very useful info. And I have the same glasses on at the moment. Lots of laughs, says Chris. I guess that's the ones that Tim's got, I'm assuming, because those are the more attractive ones.
Oh, yeah.
The cool kids wear. Yeah,
that's right.
Anybody need a bag
cool
of
kids.
Empire?
Oh my gosh.
There you go. Nice.
Empire
Just in a bag.
Crossbowmen and Bowman. Reichsguard. There we go.
Oh, Rusty, we need to talk. Rusty, we need to talk.
Not again.
Yeah, we need to talk off camera, Rusty. Have I got a deal for you?
So we'll start moseying into our first topic for this night, and that is after we've had our old world kind of wrap around here, kind of finishing off. I think maybe we'll talk about it again in the future, but I think it was good to chat about it since a lot of information's come out since the last show. So topic for this week: how much house ruling in your rules in your wargaming is okay before you're going too far. And so a matter of opinion, and also how you interpret that. Who would like to take a stab at that first?
Well,
I've been stabbed.
Yeah, there's a lot there's a lot that you can look at in that one, Palmer. That's a toughie because it kind of depends on the rule book you pick up and want to use. Now, I tend to like Hail Caesar, like when I do my solo stuff, and I try to stick as much as I can, stick closely as I can to the rule book. But when you're doing solo, there's a lot of additional things you have to do to make it interesting, you know. But I tend to like to stick fairly close to the rules, because then I feel like if I let my own personal bias into that realm too much, then it feels false. You know, I feel like I'm presenting it in a false way. Just that's personal opinion for me. Now, if I'm got like a room full of guys and we're playing a game and we're trying to adjust the rules so maybe we can quicken the pace a little bit, or maybe streamline things that we find cumbersome, I don't mind that at all. But it's when you really want to get down and start changing the nuts and bolts and the whole idea of what the author was getting at, then you might as well just write your own rules.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
That's the extreme, right?
Yeah, that's the extreme. When you break the system, you might as well just come up with your own. And but I tend to like to stick fairly close to something. I feel grounded that way. I feel like it reins me in a little bit. You know,
sometimes you could make the argument that if you go too far, why not just take the opportunity to try a different rule set?
Yeah, something else that might accommodate the thing that you're actually looking for, instead of trying to rewrite something.
And as usual, this is all about perspective. I'm interested to hear a complete different, take on it. But it's just this is all about context and perspective. No wrong answer.
Right.
Rusty,
don't like your answer. I'm gonna take my toys and go.
Even with the context, I understand the context, and I still don't like your answer.
I reject your reality and substitute my own.
That's pretty much it.
Not uncommon. Well, I don't think that you can house rule too much. I mean, obviously, it's your game. However you have fun is how you have fun. It's between you and your opponent, or if you're solo playing, that's fine. A rule set can be just kind of a guideline for you, mostly making kind of your own rule set out of it, or tweak it. You like it a lot, except for maybe just a couple of things. For me personally, I don't do a lot of house ruling because I don't play a ton of games. I guess the only game I could say that I feel like I really have a good grasp of and have played a ton, obviously, is Bolt Action. And there are a couple little things that my one buddy Mark and I, we don't house rule, but we've come up with kind of some of our own gentleman ways we deal with some of those things, and then a few things that we're actually looking at doing for our Stalingrad battles that we're going to do, how we're going to handle a few things in our own way. And we've got some other rules too that we don't care for, but at the same time, if you're going to go play like in a tournament, then sometimes we're like, well, we want to be playing by what the rules are, because then you go there, and not that we're ever going to win or anything, but you want to at least be playing the same game that everybody else is playing. But I a lot of times don't feel like I know the rules well enough, because not that I think the author knows more than me, but in many cases he does, at least until I have my head completely wrapped around the rules, and then can say, well, here's something that either I think actually he did get wrong, or she, or that doesn't really go with the vibe that I want to get from my gaming experience. But in general, I usually feel like, well, if there's something that doesn't seem quite right, then maybe I'm not doing it right, or I'm trying to solve that problem or play that unit inappropriately anyway. And so I like to give them the benefit of that. And, and like I said, Bolt Action is really the only game, which it is not at all trying to be a simulation, so I do understand that, but there's a few things that we like that could be a little bit different. But yeah, in general, I never feel like I know a rule set well enough to say, okay, here's how to really improve this or make it how we would like it, except for that one game. And in general, if you like the game, maybe it'd be for maybe for a genre that there's only a couple rule sets out there or something, where you'd be like, well, here's like my 2 or 3 choices really. So I kind of take a mix of these, or this is my favorite one, and then I house rule some things there. But for so many of the different games, it depends on the scale that you're playing and the time period, but there's usually gobs of different choices. So, you can always, maybe that rule set just isn't, kind of the feel that you're looking for. And so I would try other rule sets before I did a lot of, manipulating of what he's got, unless there was I just was really in love with it, except for these couple things. So I don't know. That I guess that's kind of what I would add to the discussion.
Yeah. I'd say one thing is you don't necessarily have to rewrite anything. A lot of times, some of the house stuff that we've done is just a minor tweak on one rule or something that.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Well, if it's a rule set you like, chances are it's fairly sound.
Yeah.
So you're just tweaking it. Otherwise, you're probably going to move on to something else.
Exactly. And a good example for us is our BattleTech rules, is that we have perks and skill sets that they have some minor amount of skill sets in the game.
Okay.
And for our campaigns, we have rewritten to, instead of having 1 page of skills, we now have pretty close to 4 pages worth.
Oh, cool.
That we've added to the game to just make it interesting.
Mm-hmm. But that's also a game you guys know, like inside and out. Like you've been there since the beginning.
And what it's done for us is it sped up our game even faster.
Okay.
Rusty, when you had said after Tim went that, you the joke of, like, I reject that, whatever, you didn't actually get to slip in your opinion there, or did you go yet? I'm trying to remember, because I know you talked a little bit. You haven't went yet, right?
No.
Okay. What was, before I go, what was your, you've already started a little bit. What was your kind of thought on it?
I don't have a problem with minor tweaking of like house rules, because it just makes sense at times. You look at something you've been playing forever and a day, and you look at it and go, maybe if we just do it slightly different, just 1 rule or 2 rules or something like that, and to make the game work even better. That it's not like you're rewriting the whole set. It's just taking something minor.
Just this one time. Maybe if we did just this little thing, just this one time.
And try it.
Well, you're not breaking any rules. I mean, I don't think the cops are going to
We won't tell anybody. We won't tell anybody. It's just once.
And the other thing is that you have to all come to agreement. This is what you're going to do. You write it down. This is going to be the house rule that you're going to use from now on. But you have to recognize the fact that if you go someplace else, they'll look at you and going, huh?
Yeah, that's not how we play, and it might change some things on how you approach the game.
Yeah. No, there's been talk of, since the dawn of time of BattleTech, of how autocannons work. Palmer, how autocannons are. It's like just a heavy weapon that does a pretty much minimal amount of damage compared to like an energy weapon. But
I think it's hilarious that you said, Palmer, in BattleTech how autocannons are. I remember the name autocannon when I tried the game like 4 years ago for one time. But that's all.
Well, you're like a veteran then.
I know autocannons that like are in 40K, as well, like the name autocannon. Like I know that autocannons, I probably am more familiar with the idea of autocannons at 40K, even though I didn't employ them very often. But I do remember them on there, yeah.
Yes, it's been something that's been kicked around for forever, is that no matter where I seem to go, is that everybody says the same thing, that autocannons need to be changed. And one of the most common things people like to mention is that taking them and giving them minuses to hit, make it easier for the hit, because they act like a big giant machine gun, tracer fire.
Wow.
Instead of, so make it a reason why you want to run these darn things.
Yeah. Well, I think you guys kind of encompassed my opinion a little bit too. More so, I do wonder whether the amount that you play a game for sure gives you the comfort level. Like if you're really into 1 or 2 games, it gives you the comfort level to feel pretty good about making a little minor tweak, because you've played it so much that you by the time, if the game hasn't changed that much since its release, like except for maybe like a FAQ and like one update, that you've likely played it more than the play testers did after you played it for 5+ years. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and so at that point you figured out, where it might even be better to do this or that. I find the house ruling I typically do is more what I would call an error of omission. Meaning, like when I played at Musket and Tomahawk's first edition, there were events, and you could put in 3 event cards. They gave them to you, but the events were such a big deal, like on the game, that it almost was too much. Like to actually have 3 events happen in a standard game, it's like, does it really do like 3 huge things really happen in a 30-minute battle? Like, because like when you really look at the amount of moving around the table that you guys are doing and like what's happening, it's really probably like 30 minutes of real life time. Like it's probably not. It's not like a day of 2 days of fighting. And even if it was, would these 3 big events really happen? Like,
I agree. I've thought that before.
How often will a big giant bear come in and eat everybody?
Yeah, no, exactly. And so, basically I would just said, forget it. We're just putting 1 event card in. And so did I house rule? Yes. Like by the rules I did, but did I really change the nature of the game?
No,
not that much really. Like it probably, most people are probably going to do without even being told to what I just did, because it just doesn't make sense. And so for me, I would call that an omission. Then I didn't add anything creatively to the game that I came up with to make the game different. All I did was just make it a little bit less of something that they came up with. So I do that more often if I'm going to do something, but I'm probably closer to Tim in the way he described it. I play enough different things that I'm probably more just trying to make sure that I'm up to speed with the rules again, because I played it 3 times in a row, then I stop for a year and then I come back to it because I played a whole bunch of other stuff, and I'm just wanting to get back to where I was. Like I'm not usually trying to change it, and then there is I'm not of the impression. I actually think my perspective is that most of the people that are rule writers are pretty easygoing, and they don't look at themselves as having written scripture. Most
of them even say that.
They'll even say it right in the rules. And so
thou shalt not read from the holy scriptures of the holy hand grenade without reading the first rule first.
That's right, exactly. And so from my perspective, if you, on the one hand, I feel like I should try this as written to try to experience it the way they wrote it. And that's what I meant by me kind of being like on the way that Tim, is like, I'm naturally like that. But then I also kind of tell myself too, probably they wouldn't care. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But I never usually feel the need, I suppose, is what like I would say in most cases. I'll just move on to another rule set. I'll just move on to another rule set usually, if I want to try something different. So that's my thought on it. What do you say we look at the comments? See, Oh, okay. I think this is one that we'll just come right back to because just it. You know what? I'm gonna actually come back to that just because I think it's a question that's not on the. I just want to see the ones that are directly related to this topic first. I do. So Bill says I do home rules when I set up solo games by using the solo rules from one game to program the opponent for a second game that doesn't have solo rules. Yeah, so that's interesting. Like what you're saying is if you're actually playing, but then if you're playing a game that doesn't have solo rules, then right off the bat you're kind of home ruling the game by definition in some people's minds because you're playing it in a way that is not written in there. You're playing it solo. So what you do is you're using a mechanic system from another game to actually help achieve that, which that's actually interesting. We didn't talk about that. That's kind of like combining concepts from other games, which probably many of us subconsciously or might even do when we're thinking that we're doing it ourselves. We're actually using stuff we learned elsewhere.
Probably, yeah.
If you play enough games, rules kind of blend together and you're like trying to figure out what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mel says, he says, we had to use house rules to curb some abusive rules because of rules lawyers. That's interesting.
I don't know who he's talking about there.
So somebody finds a loophole in a rule set as written, and then you kind of, in a way to curb, sort of bad behavior, you grab like something from another game that just, or your own rules, not even from another game, or your own rules just to sort of try to make that less possible.
Try to correct that, less abusable. Yeah.
Yeah, we used to have somebody in our group that used to take rules from other games and try to stick them into other games. And you try to call, say, no, that's not there. It's like, okay.
Was it confusion or just cheating?
Bill says,
interesting statement there.
Bill says, in reference to his wife's painting of first miniature, she painted a cyberpunk mecha suited women figure. Cool. So science fiction. And I know you're playing that. You're playing that game that actually with the lizard, like
what is that?
Sci-fi one where you could use any models you wanted. I wonder if maybe that was for that game because I know you had like some Cthulhu looking ones too, I believe. So Joshua had this is one I wanted to just wait until after this just because it's like a question. Question for you guys. What do you think of this modern FOMO or fear of missing out trends in the games industry? I think it's worse the Kickstarter campaigns personally.
Yeah.
I guess is some of it people here have said that, and I've heard online is like manufactured, by the games industry itself. Like they are trying to create that fear of missing out in the way they're releasing stuff. But then some of it is just like a product of us, right? Like a consumerism.
Yeah.
Well, I think what they've done is they've just taken mainstream marketing tactics and strategies and they're applying them to games. When most of us have been around before that, where the games were basically there because people loved the games and they created these games for people to play. Now we're in an era
business
of
now.
Business. And they're adopting standard strategies, tactics, and practices of other money-making industries. And it feels weird when we talk about it in the terms of games. But
huge
we
industry
have
now.
to understand that, like especially like with Games Workshop, it's business. And
so what you're saying
have taken over.
When you go into it, you better understand they're a business first.
Yeah.
Because they have shareholders now and have for quite some time. And that's what their main concern is.
Profit.
Right.
Making profit versus fun.
Or for even following, just creative, pathways and just, all that. It is which I understand, but you're right. Like Tim said, definitely, if you go back far enough, that not that these people weren't trying to make money, but usually it was some small couple of sculptors or a couple of gamers, and they kind of got started, starting a small business, and they were just doing it out of the love of it, and boy, they could make some money doing it. It was, and what did the fans, and there's still small game companies that do that, both in board games and in miniature games, but they're it's a really tough road to hoe, and they're never going to get big doing what they're doing, but it is that same flavor of handling the gaming business, I guess, still. So it's still out there, but yeah.
Oh,
and of course, sometimes I think the FOMO is actually well, I mean, Games Workshop is obviously a master at it, and it'd be fun to peek behind the curtain too, because darn, they have a strategy, and I always, even how they've released the whole old world thing, it's always been really cryptic, and there's always been, they kind of lead you this way and then you lead you that way, and even when people are not happy and bitching and moaning, or some of them love it or whatever, it's creating the buzz, and the buzz is what they're after. And then do they create less games than were they really surprised it sold like that in the first hours, or did they, like, this is part of the scheme, and now when it finally hits the shelves again, gets restocked, people are going to say, well, I better get it now before it goes out of stock again, and then they'll do the same thing with the next army when it comes out. And I guess I'm old enough now that I don't feel like, I don't feel like I get sucked into I can feel it because it's real. I mean, I'm a human being, and I get that. I can feel it, but I don't usually bite on that.
A great example is, you remember that Rice Krispie bar commercial where they have one Rice Krispie bar that's sitting on the counter, and the guy's rushing in and he's like, oh, there's only one left. I got to buy it. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as the guy buys it and rushes out, they reach under the counter and put another single one.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I used to work at a retailer, just a small business, but we get it was a auto parts store, and we put this display out of like the 15 flashlights. This company would sell them this display. You punch the box open, set it on the counter, and we actually saw if it was full, you couldn't sell one. If you take like 6 of the 10 out, you could sell those 4 and then put 4 more back out, and you'd sell those 4.
Yeah,
because people see it, A, it looks like it's selling, and B, it's like, well, there's only a couple left. I better get one before they don't have it. Yeah. And so it's just, it must be somewhat human nature of, always trying to make sure you have enough resources type thing. And worrying
as
about
you're sitting there in your hunter-gatherer lifestyle and you see one nut on the tree.
Yeah.
You better get it while it's still there.
Yeah, you can't resist, even though you don't really know what you'll do with it now. But sometime I might want that and they won't have it. And so I better get it now.
Yep.
Joshua, same question, different question, but from the last topic, goes, in terms of house rules for games, we had to house rule. We found the Warhammer Renaissance rules set, which is a living rule book and has an active community for FAQ and rules changes. Yeah. And so, in some ways, like, I don't know. I'm hesitant to bring this up because I don't know as much about it. Maybe you guys do. But the Ninth Age would be similar in that they created a rule set, but it is rooted right in the previous editions, right?
Yep. Yeah, and it's a living rules set where they each year review and made changes according to feedback and results in tournaments, and they do the same thing with the War Master Revolution. So the War Master rules have been completely redone. You can actually, they're privately printing hardcover copies of the book. It beautifully, it could be done by a major publication, and they do the same thing. They've got this group, the board, that they kind of they review, they rebalance each year, and each year it's where there's less and less tweaks to where it's basically solid now. If Games Workshop would do that, you'd probably really have a hell of a game eventually. But
all right, well, We are at 9:35, and or that's Mountain Time. And essentially, we have another topic that we wanted to chat about tonight, and this is more on the hobby side and less on the rules side. And that is, do you feel like you have different painting styles? And if so, how do you? And if you don't, then describe how you don't, and like the reasons for that as well. I might actually start on this one just because I haven't started on any of the topics or things tonight. I liked this topic because just personally, I feel like I do try to achieve different painting styles. It started with me trying to just paint 40K almost like with a realism. And then also the World War II, like I'm painting tonight, I tried, to paint with what I would call realism. Like when I was learning again to try how to paint miniatures, I was trying to like use as many technical effects like washes and like grime and like things to make them look like little men that have run through the dirt and had rust and had stuff on them. And because of that, they were a bit more gritty. They didn't like you could argue that with that style, it doesn't always pop as much as a fantastical paint job. But that's how I was trying to do it. And like when I was painting the World War II, even though I was new at it, all of those effects is what I was trying to achieve. At another point, and I'm probably skipping through other types of paint jobs, but at another point, I started painting Infinity by Corvus Belli. And what I was trying to do with that is I was trying to emulate I was seeing a lot of the studio artists and a lot of the community paint Infinity as, and that was using a bit more, like I was using a bit more airbrushing. I was trying to make things pop, but in a bit more of a modern style pop, like, through airbrushing techniques and blending and just trying to do that. And so I was trying to stretch myself to paint differently than I had been prior to that point. At another point in time, and I always would dip back to the realistic for historicals. Like I would go back to French Indian War and try to paint more realistic. And then at another point, I was painting the Marvel Universe Miniatures game, and I was trying to learn how to paint comic style, which was almost really, really different. I was trying to paint really brightly, but then using inks like black inks to create tremendous contrast. I was trying to almost make them look like two-dimensional comic book characters out of a comic page, and not so much worried about the fact that they're three-dimensional sculptures. I was really trying to emulate the comic book and painting totally different, like using different techniques. And then lastly, I've over the years, I've tried with my Warhammer to try to take a step back, ironically, towards the beginning and see how I can paint a little bit more like models were painted maybe 6th edition, pre-6th edition in some ways, like even before 6th edition, like some of the bright colors and some of the techniques when you even didn't even have some of the things that we have now that created a different effect. And even, using black lining and things like that to just try to just do that, which is a very different style. Instead of using a wash, getting your depth very intentionally, through various types of black lining, or even not even always black, but even using darker shades of what you already have on there to achieve the same kind of contrast. And through this entire process, like, I don't think that there's any one way to do it, but through this entire process, I felt like it's made me a better painter, in the sense of practicing all the different techniques and just trying to start over. And I always used to talk about plateaus, with my painting. And every time I try something new, I actually am painting worse than I did before, because I'm basically going away from a comfort zone to do something. And ultimately, I'm usually not painting as better in this newer way than I was with my comfort zone before, which is a hard thing to do, particularly when you put your stuff up in front of other people. It's a hard thing to do sometimes, to get yourself to realize, like, allow yourself to maybe paint worse for a purpose. So do I after my long rant, this is kind of one of the reasons why I brought it up. I thought it was an interesting topic because I think there are other folks that think totally different about it than me, which is fine, totally fine. Like, obviously, but I feel like it's an interesting topic.
So what is your favorite part, trying to achieve different looks or trying new techniques?
Ultimately, it's probably to try to achieve different looks because as much as I do have fun, like learning a new technique, eventually when I get it right, the first time doing it is just like not always fun, right? Like, like doing the new technique and having it come out not good the first time or not as good as it will in the future isn't necessarily the fun part for me. Maybe down the road it is once I've learned it, but ultimately trying to achieve a different effect, I think is
that's the reward.
Fun. The idea of being in a different space and just trying to see it kind of come out differently. And that's why even the contrast paints, which would be another whole thing, is I tried for the first time the contrast paints, and even being able to just do something that I could probably do better or at least get a similar effect without as much uncertainty, because I've never used the contrast before. Right. Seeing myself get results, for the first time with those and just having it work totally different than what I'm used to had a certain level of satisfaction associated with it.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of that getting out, like you said, getting out of your comfort zone of trying something new that you've never done before, because you get into a rut, you paint the same way where you're comfortable.
Yeah.
And you see somebody do something different and you're going, how the heck did he do that? And I see a lot of that is, especially if you pay attention to model builders that do realistic dioramas and stuff like that. And you're like, you look at them and go, how the heck did they make that look that way? Yeah, and you try it, and eventually you figure out how they do it. Unless they are showing you a video how to do it, you get stuck in something where you're comfortable. Or you come from, let's say, I spent a lot of painting of historicals before I really got into fantasy or sci-fi.
So how would you answer that, Rusty? Would you say that you have different styles? Or I don't want to answer for you because I see you paint a lot of stuff. I have an opinion on that. But do you think that you have different styles?
I do have probably in my arsenal 3 solid ones.
Mm-hmm.
And it just depends really on what type of model or genre I'm working on.
How would you characterize those? What would you name them as? Like, or which kind of miniatures are they?
You got the historical style, which is realistic as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And like you were saying, you want to bring all the grime and grit to it and make it look like it was in the field. And a lot of that comes from building models.
Mm-hmm.
I used to build model cars and tanks and stuff like that. So it's you always try to. You see these guys, you go to a hobby shop, and you look at it, and it's like, how the heck? And then they have magazines and stuff, and you look at a magazine, and you're like, wow, what they do.
Mm-hmm.
What are your other ones that?
There's the sci-fi style, and then there's that. To be honest, I got a dry brush style too.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to have somebody that knows how to dry brush and make it real realistic, I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
You're the guy.
I'm the guy.
Well, who wants?
I basically perfected that with the Dystopian Wars style painting to make it realistic.
I actually would have added your Ragnarok inks style.
Yeah, that's one. Yeah, that was a test. I just wanted to see if I could do it.
Well, there we go. That's exactly what we're talking about.
And you got this little guy right here, like these horses. How do you think I painted these?
Dip. You just dipped it in a pot of paint.
Seriously?
Just kidding.
Grabbed a 6-inch brush. I don't know.
You dipped it in the paint and then you poked out the holes of the paint.
There's one in every crowd.
I drip dried those suckers.
Yeah.
Now, those are dry brush.
Yep.
So
That's what I wondered.
Yeah.
and people
go-to
always
on
ask me,
bone.
it's like, oh, it'll take you forever to do all that bone work. And I'm like, no, it won't. I did all those horses in less than an hour. And it makes them, they look realistic because it's something I've gotten done. You know, I painted a lot of bone in my days.
Yeah, and if you got good models to work with,
Yeah.
that helps.
I'm skipping around here on the comments just because this one's really appropriate. But Mel says rusty rattle cans and stuff like those Mexican tourist painters. And so,
yeah.
So,
The secret's out. Come on, man.
who's next?
Come on, man.
Who's
I'll
next?
go next. I have one style only, and it's like I have one
Proud of
quiver.
it.
I have one arrow in my quiver, and I use it everywhere,
Repeatedly.
Historical style.
historical style.
Which
Grungy,
means what?
grungy hides all my flaws. Somebody
Big dry
asked-
brusher.
Yeah, it's like, yep, he's supposed to look like that. He's in the field. That's why I avoid Napoleonics.
Mm-hmm. But you know,
Because-
and you know, oh, go ahead. Sorry,
No, that's all
Napoleonics.
right. Go ahead.
No,
Go
I'm
ahead.
just commenting on your comment because
Go ahead.
that actually, I was waiting for that answer to come up because it's actually a very legitimate answer. And you know, I've actually seen in our community on YouTube some painters that are just amazing, and they do pretty much use the same kind of approach, but they've perfected it and they use it. They tend to paint in an area that their area of interest tends to fall in that, and they've actually gotten so good at it that you're not normal, like you don't normally see them, at least on like their YouTube channel, kind of veer away from it. But you can't, you know, like you can't fault somebody for doing amazing miniatures. I mean, like, you know, like they still look really quite amazing and stuff. And so you know, needing to just like switch it up isn't necessarily necessary or what some people want to do.
Oh, I don't know. It should be frowned on, Palmer.
You know, you take no risks. You think you're good, but that's all you can do.
You're a one-trick pony, bud.
That's right.
Yes,
Kidding.
I
You're
am.
one
I have,
quiver man.
I have a one-trick pony, and I will ride that pony until its legs fall off.
So what's your reasoning there, Tim? Is it because that's just what you're comfortable, or you get the look that you like, or that's fun for you, or what?
Well, it's twofold. One, I like ancient historicals.
Yep.
You know, if you look at my channel,
That's what it
other
is.
than some English Civil War stuff, it's basically ancients of some variety.
Yeah.
And even fantasy stuff. My chaos guys, they're pretty grungy looking. My empire guys,
They could be in
they're
wartime.
yeah, they're pretty grungy. Yeah, I just fell into this time period thing. Now, I really do want to try to knuckle down and maybe do some Napoleonics where all the flashy uniforms and all that kind of stuff, which I think would make me try other things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
because of the detail and that sort of, I just think it would require it. And like I said, you can hide a lot of stuff with a wash. You know,
What'll
Yeah.
really pull you out of your comfort
Skill-
zone or
skill in a bottle.
characters. Yeah,
And-
if you actually picked up a couple of comic book characters, it would really actually probably twist your brain around, because you, not that you have any interest in that or whatever, but I just find that when I first did that, which wasn't for the MUMG, but was for the original Marvel Universe game, the moment I was trying to do comic book characters, I was like torn between the movies and the comic books. But it really, when you pull something like completely out of your comfort zone like that, it makes you feel as if, like, if I do this the normal way, as you start doing this, you're like, this isn't right. Like it just doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
if that makes sense, because you're pulling something out that's forcing you to feel that your normal way isn't right when you look at it, if that makes sense. And that was kind of interesting and frustrating sometimes too. Like,
and
I was
can
frustrated.
understand where it's taking a certain technique, like with those comic book. For me to paint a comic book character the way I paint my ancients would you put that out and they would go like, no, that's not the way he's supposed to look. It has to have that shiny, that bright color, that contrast, heavy contrast, and usually a lot of yellows and blues and yellows together and pinks and colors I don't hardly ever work in unless I'm doing my Persian army, which has all kinds of, it's like the rainbow,
they are.
Taste the rainbow.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think it's a fair answer. And I think a lot of people that paint a lot better than me on YouTube that have like one particular style, might answer the same way. Like, like it's just, this is the way I do it. I've spent a lot of time doing it this way. The results speak for themselves, and I don't need to do another way. That's why there's really no right answer. But
well, and it can be true. Like for me, it's about like, since I do a lot of mass armies, it's about getting stuff ready for the table. It's not about each individual piece looking like it belongs in a museum or on the cover of a magazine. It's about how many of these guys can I get done to where I'm sitting there at 3 foot away that it looks the way it's supposed to look.
Right.
And that's kind of the motivation for my technique. It's the reason why my technique developed for doing these. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, the game and the army kind of mold that painting to its end goal of getting more stuff on the table and getting it, presentable. I do like my armies to look like they're supposed to look. Don't get me wrong. I take time with it, but it's one of those things that between the games that I play and the scale requires a certain kind of painting. Now, if I was playing skirmish games, like a lot of my 54 millimeter stuff, which they're all boxed up now, I took a lot more time on those because they were just passion projects. And I did some different things with those, more highlighting, more detail work on weapons and stuff that I don't normally do on 28 millimeter mass armies.
Right.
I just think you're wasting a lot of time unless you're really going to put like a magnifying glass up to it and say, hey, look at how great these guys look. But when you get them on the table and it's in this big mass, who's going to see it? I mean, I just want it to look the way it's supposed to look for the time period that I'm playing and the type of game I'm playing. But if I was doing like a lot of skirmish games, I'd take a lot more time with each model than it's like my characters for A Song of Ice and Fire that I do. I take a lot more time with the character models, the NCUs that go on the little tactics board, than I do a lot of the units, because a lot of the units are, they're all pretty much the same couple of poses, same sort of thing. So get them done, get them on the table.
Makes sense.
Yeah, if you look at painting models and put everything on a scale of 1 to 10, most people, like what you're doing, is that most of your models are going to be 3s. Your base, just 3 colors looking good at a distance, nothing elaborate. Your hero types on the table might be a 5.
Yeah.
And now you look at Dan's Bretonnian army, everybody, even down to the lowest knight, is probably a 7.
Oh, yeah. I heartily agree with that. Yeah.
So it's like he's doing God tier for his entire army.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of a passion project there.
Yeah.
So segueing into that, Dan.
I'm working on my Tomb Kings right now, these chariots, and the chariots, I'm putting enough effort into them. They're probably going to be about a 4, maybe a 5.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not very many of them. And it's one of a passion project for me, for my Tomb Kings. And, I want to get them done eventually, but because I used to play with them, was that they would be partially painted. Everything was partially painted at one point at a stage.
That's pretty typical.
Yeah. But most of the games I remember playing, it's like when you look at, was it 7th, 8th edition, everything was, you fight against somebody, everything was plastic, just bare plastic. Very seldom you see anybody playing with an army that was actually painted.
So Dan, speaking of your Bretonians, or just tagging off of that, what is your answer to this? As far as do you have more than one painting style?
I do not. Basically, I don't feel like I do. Are you being sarcastic? I hope.
No. I'm actually shocked that you say that.
Oh,
actually, because like, you think your Bretonians, the way you approach your, and you know what, like you know better than I do, but when you paint your Bretonians and you paint your World War II, are you telling me that you haven't stressed yourself and actually go into a different world, when you're painting?
As someone that's seen his table in action, everything on the table is like up here.
But I'm not talking about quality.
No, I mean, it's the same thing. It's like everything he does is at the same level. But
I guess the reason I'm surprised at that is I'm not, by me saying
I'm using the same technique
versus your World War II. I'm saying that it's not a quality thing. It's more the pop that you achieve and what you do with the Bretonians. If you feel is exactly the same, what you do as with your World War II.
I do approach them 100% the same.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, World War II. Well, you can take my Continentals, or you could take my World War II, or take my Bretonians. The Bretonians, obviously, yes, it's green, it's blue, it's red. I take them to the bright end of that spectrum.
Yeah.
But I do that same on my Continentals. A real historian would look at my Continentals and say, well, it's like a dark navy blue. It's almost a blue-black. Yours are like Crayola blue with highlights of like sky blue. I mean, that's in my red coats, same way. I paint and I use the same techniques, whether it's washes or layering or dry brushing. I don't alter any of that. It's been my whole painting has been a journey basically from where I started out, and I just keep learning like a new technique, and it gets added to everything. Even on my World War II guys, I painted the eyes on all of them the same way, same 3 steps on the flesh. It's the same I do on Bretonians. I take everything. I take the actual color and then I brighten it. Yeah. Same on my Germans and my Americans. I start with the brown violet, or what is it?
Brown violet on the tip.
Yeah, and then I just keep adding pale green or white to just keep brightening it out. Same on the pants.
You find your World War II, because it's been a while since I've seen it up close, but do you find that you highlight, rather than putting in washes and going more realistic with your World War II, you still highlight up, like you go from dark to light, and you don't even you don't do that as much? Okay.
I do, because see, I do the same way as I do all my stuff. I do my base coats, and then I do a wash, and it's not necessarily the whole thing gets washed in one color. I might wash in several colors. The flesh gets a wash. If the jacket's more of a blue, it might get a blue, it might get a black. I just kind of decide, but then I go back in and everything gets re-highlighted up. And I do that on my Germans and my Americans. And
if there was any question, I'm just putting this on there just for, because if there's any question.
I would say Dan's painting style for everything is ultra realistic historical.
Yeah, that's what I would say too. Because and the reason I do it, because I even in my World War II, I started out just like you go to the Vallejo Colors and they tell you the colors to use, and you do it and you put a wash on, and that looks good. And you can even put a wash on and then rebase with the, go back over with the base coat and call that good. And it does look good. But for me, once you put that on the table at 3 to 4 or 5 foot away, to me, it looks like I don't like that look personally. I want to see it pop. And even like my buildings, yes, they're all weathered and I've got, grime streaks coming down them, but they still pop. I mean, I don't know how to describe it. I take everything to the bright level. Almost
maybe because it's his. Well, that's interesting because when Rusty, when you say that he's ultra realistic, historical, like everything. See, it's funny. I guess it's a matter of definition because I actually find that your Bretonians are more fantastical. Like they pop really, like you just said, which to me isn't ultra realistic. Like ultra realistic would be griming it up more, like having like the cloth be different on the bottom where it, and
I don't like to muddy anything up except my vehicles. I do, and not extreme. It's very mild. But look, I guess maybe what he means is I take what the real actual historic colors are, whether it's for the Continentals, the British, or the Germans, or I just got done with my Soviets and I researched it and I got the right tone.
Next step
and then I brighten it up and then brighten it some more. The highlights are bright because I think it really pops, and I take the flesh to the extreme. The 3 layers, even, the chin, nose, and cheeks get with it's almost a white that I just dot. And, so if it's not like some people, it's like, okay, when you look at that 28 millimeter and you blow it up on your computer screen, it's like, now that is probably exactly what that uniform looked like. I mean, you can have your guide right next to you and be like, that is like an exact match. If you did that to mine, you'd be like, that is, that what's the word? It's a representation. It's a representation of it, but not a replica of it. But I do all of them in that same kind of style. The only thing where I use different techniques really is in my terrain, because there I do all kinds of different things. I do some black lining. I do dry brushing. I do washes. I do blotting. I do glazes. I mean, that's where I really I'm going for a look, and there's no right answer, but I do have my system that works, and I do paint each guy. I don't really do, or like when I painted 20 of my Bretonian spearmen, the front rank, the back rank, the command, everybody got the exact same layers and attention. But it's slower than molasses, and if you don't enjoy the painting process, it's not the way to go. But for me, I always feel like when I get done, I want to be able to come back to that army a year, 3, 5, 6 years from now, and maybe I am painting better now, but I'm still like, now that is still, I'm still proud of it, I guess. And and for sure on the Bretonians, because of the fact that it was always my dream army to do, and the fact too that the models are hard to find and extremely expensive now, that I want to do them justice, and I'm not going to come back and repaint them or touch them up. This is my best effort that I have now. But I can see, I can see some of the first knights I painted, I've improved since then. And then it'll be interesting to see when I return, I'll be doing my Knights Errant and see if that, maybe I've improved again. I don't know.
You might have identified a little bit with the individual that I described when I was talking, and referring to Tim's comment about the person that like paints really well, but it's actually kind of, this technique has always worked for them, and they're evolving that, and they don't really see a need to change it.
That's me.
We do have some comments here on this subject. I'm curious as to what our audience feels they are through this discussion. Bill says, I mainly block paint and then go over the miniatures with a wash. Over the past year, I've been trying to out slap chop, which that is essentially what I did. I use the principles of slap chop when using the contrast paint. And that's a nice way to, depending on what you're doing and, what you want to accomplish, like you can get some really good looking miniatures. I've actually watched some people on YouTube using speed paints, like do stuff that better than I would just with my normal traditional, like using a speed paint, but they're just like so good. And then they tweak things, like they they do a lot of subtle stuff with the speed painting, and it just comes out quite amazing. And Bill says, I also tend to dry push terrain. So like another style of painting. This was the Rusty comment that we went over. Chris says, I block paint and wash and use contrast types of paint. Just depends on what minis I'm doing. My naps are field armies, so mismatched clothes, etc. Wash is your friend. Bill says, I do the flashy clothes when I paint samurai and landsknecht, which that would make sense. Absolutely.
Yeah, they were flashy.
So Joshua says, a great topic, guys. I went from wanting to paint like Mike McVeigh in the 90s, then wanting to paint like the French master at Rackham, then into the Infinity style, and now back to the 90s. So you've kind of circled through different kind of things. So
I'm flashing the 90s here.
Yeah, there you are. Yeah, I got to shout out to Josh. His painting is that is top tier stuff. I love. I'd love to be. It is like going into the old White Dwarf magazine. Heavy metal pages. I mean, it's like it is nostalgia on a nostalgia.
Absolutely. No, I would concur. Bill says bright colors are what makes samurai armies pop. Joshua says always learning, and now I am painting historicals and using pigments and materials I would never use normally, which is fun. Yeah, I have pigments and I use them just for certain things, and then I don't use them for a long time, and then I almost, because it is a totally different technique, almost have to relearn it if it's been a number of years, because it is like
especially
totally just separate way of doing things.
Go out and buy yourself a pastel set.
Yeah,
a large pastel set that has a wide range of pastels, and you just make your own pigments from those.
I use just those dry chalk pastels. I use that for weathering my buildings. I brush it on and then fix it. Yeah,
this might have been part of the discussion with Dan when he's just saying 3-foot rule, make it pop 3 feet away, which
fair enough.
Mel says I tend to have two styles of painting: clean and all over my hands.
I think we suffer all of that sometimes.
So that's finger painting.
Yeah, it's like I got some paint on my fingers tonight.
And then we got to thank you from Joshua on that.
Yeah, he rocks.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I thought those are two pretty cool topics tonight.
Yeah, it was good stuff. We actually covered our topics. That's weird.
Wow. Actually,
last time we never even got to the topics.
No, we couldn't even find the topic.
Limit myself.
We just kept
to one
rattling on our. I still have some of my drink left.
Boy, if I limit myself to one, I can get us. There you
go.
Through.
Battletech.
That's right. I actually have finished it though. There's maybe a drop. Anyway, we also had some pretty good. We did our updates. We talked about the old world for quite a while. And got through all of our topics, which was good.
Yeah, I was over here looking at the old world, and so far that big bone dragon is only available in the limited edition box set.
Okay. Oh. I thought maybe it was, but I hadn't looked that close at the.
Well, they'll repackage it eventually, right?
Oh, absolutely,
definitely
get rid of it.
But everything it's for the is sold out except for the War Sphinx and the Tomb Guard.
Yeah.
Well, in some ways that's good because I have nothing to think about if that's the case.
Well, if you're not interested in getting into the old world Tomb Kings, then it's not an issue.
This was my old world investment right here.
That your demons?
Yeah. So I don't think no. These are actually I haven't showed this on my channel or anything, but I ended up getting 15 of the original pink horrors, and then 10 original pink horrors and 15 blue horrors, and so. These are
those are so
top of the
amazing.
Bodies.
Oh God, I love those.
And then that was the top of the torso of the pink, and this is an example of the blue. They're smaller, right? These guys here. But I basically got 15 of blue and 10 of pink. Not cheap. Came over from Europe. actually half of them I did trade for some Vitronian archers, metal archers that I had. I was able to kind of reduce the price by half by trading those. And basically, the way I looked at it was, even though these were a significant investment, like I have no reservation getting these.
No, those are so amazing. Have you watched Dr. Luke Blacksoul's channel? Dr. Luke Blacksoul. He's in the UK.
I don't think so.
He does a bunch of Warhammer stuff. He's got a beautiful Bretonnian army, but he did a showcase on his Chaos. He's a wonderful painter, and he has those pink horrors. And
wait,
Dr. Luke Blacksoul.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look that up. Okay.
Because I've watched that video, and I'm not even into that army, and I bet I've watched that video 5 or 6 times in the last year.
Well, I have a whole bunch of those, but I gave them to my brother to use for his demon army. And when his house burned down, I don't think he has them anymore.
Oh,
that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well, I had 2 purposes for getting those, and one, because I don't know whether I'm going to put them on squares round, but I was thinking squares because
Square.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that I'm also going to use them as a major part of Warhammer 2nd edition 40K. I have the Beastmen army, but I'm also doing demons and mortals that I've purchased, and so by getting these, I can use them in my Warhammer 6th edition Chaos. But I'm also planning on doing a Tzeentch force for Warhammer 2nd edition, and I have all of the original Chaos Renegades that are the original Thousand Suns, the fixed bows. Got 20 of those, and I have like sorcerers. I've got all kinds of like Tzeentch twisted renegades, you
got the flamers too, don't you?
I don't have those, but I have the original Chaos Dreadnought. I've got a few things for that, and now I have these Tzeentch kind of style demons, right? And then so I'm going to use them for both. I guess the question is whether I just play the game with square bases and use them for the.
I'll put something edition towards you that you may not know is that there were also hexagon bases in 2nd edition.
Yes. Oh yeah, I know people were using hexagons. Yeah, so that's that kind of. But then the question is, for I feel like for Fantasy Battle, I will want to rank them, I believe, at times, in which case it's just easier with squares. And so that's why I always feel like I'm defaulting to the square if it's going to be for both.
For the longest time, I had square bases on my demons because they were either fantasy or they could be used in 40K. So it didn't matter.
Right. It's easier to rank them up, and then you can still use them skirmishing in squares. Joshua says, Palmer, we need to talk, mate. You clearly don't need those horrors. I feel like that's
you better lock your doors, buddy. You just showed you have those.
Yeah.
Those things go for about $15 to $25 a piece, so minimum.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
They're hard to find. Move along. Yeah.
Look at Palmer making me feel old again. That's Chris.
Well,
anyway,
in that category.
I had my eye on these for a couple of years, and I did find that I could almost never really. I either couldn't personally justify spending the money at the time, or I felt like they were too much money just in general. Mm-hmm. But then because I'm doing both, I'm using them for both, and I have the multi-utility. And then I also I decided even if I had to pay for them outright, I was getting them. But I just threw it out there to the guy. I was like,
yeah,
I got this stuff too. You know what? I shouldn't say this publicly, but just because like somebody's going to ask me to buy these. But I actually have the Marauder Ogre, the Marauder Reichland Ogres, like the Landsknecht.
Oh
ogres,
my gosh!
Really? Yeah. So I have all of them, but 2 in the set. So I have like 5 individual of those Reichland Marauder Ogres. So I was dangling those out there too. I was like, if you want some of these, I can mix this up. I was really surprised that he didn't go for those, but he wanted the Bretonnian archers. So,
well, smart man. Jeez, yeah.
How about these guys? You got any of these?
Let me pull this in here. Oh, nice. Ogrins. Those are the Ogrins.
The old
I had 2 Ogrins like those, and I've already traded them away. I did have 2 Ogrins like those.
Yeah, there's some more.
I actually found a deal on
Nice.
And they're on square bases.
Oh, it is square.
That's right.
Square base.
That's true.
Because square bases were a thing in second edition 40K.
That's crazy. I actually found a guy on eBay or whatever, a person on eBay that I bid on him, and I was the only bid. It kind of was a misspelled listing. I just kind of stumbled on it. When I did a search, they didn't come up, but I stumbled on it. And there was 5 packs of the 5th edition metal Bretonian Spearman.
Oh, okay. You don't see those very often.
No, brand new in the packs. 5 brand new packs, and actually the packs are mint. Like if you were a collector, you would be like, "This is the one I want in my collection." And
can I show you something? I'm gonna get something while you're talking.
Yeah.
Just wanna get something.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. Yeah. But anyway, I bid on them. I thought, well, a lot of times I do that. You just wait and see what happens. Yeah, it's in a green pack like that. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
Reichsguard. And
Yeah,
still in
yep.
the green pack.
And they were only let's see, it was like 6 something a miniature. I mean, they bring over 10 when they're opened and painted. And so I was like, wow. And that's with shipping. It was a little less than $7 a miniature.
That's good.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I got that one of those.
Spearman and one of the command musicians.
Yeah.
Is this the ones you're talking about?
Yep. Those are the ones I'm talking about. Yep.
Yeah.
How many of those do you have? Just asking. I mean,
I got a unit of 10, including command. So it's 7 with command. Yeah.
How much Bretonian stuff do you still have then?
Hang on. What did I just do there? Let me get out of this.
Did you lose everybody else? Oh, there they are.
I have a unit of 10 of these left, and I have men-at-arms unit of 10, I believe, 10 to 15 of the men-at-arms too.
The plastic men-at-arms?
No, they're metal. I'll show you. Hang on.
Oh, with the halberdiers? Wait, what? Why does he not tell me these things? And then he sends
talks
archers
about us
to
being
Europe.
He's got a treasure of stuff that you would want.
I know.
And here he goes trading it off to someone else.
Find out who your friends are, I guess. Oh yeah, that's a command model.
I'm balancing these on the Spearman here. Let me just not knock these down, but
that's your NCO.
I'm just gonna.
Yep.
I haven't seen those in a long time.
I have a unit of 20, and I've got another like 8 or 10 I haven't painted. Yep, and another command model.
These are.
Do you have shields for them?
No, but most of them are halberdiers, right? Like they're all.
Yep.
And then I have this guy here who's like a drummer.
Yep, be just a command model if you want to.
So I have 3 command, and then I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Actually, what do I have here? I have 4. So in total, I have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I have a unit of 15 that includes command.
Oh. What do I have? I got some old goblins I'm not doing anything with from 5th edition and a beast man.
I got a beast man and some old goblins.
I got some old plastic beastmen. Does that count? With the halberds?
I think they're actually, I've got some netters, some goblin netters. There are some early edition ones that I got in.
I still got some unpainted goblins that I need to paint up sometime.
Joshua says this could be a live eBay market for old school minis.
Let's start the bidding.
In the old Marauders, please. I have 2 units of 20 Hotspur medieval spearmen in my Empire army. I need proper spears and pikes for them, though.
Oh, okay.
Porter.
He's just driving the prices up because he's got half the Bretonian miniatures that are in the market in Palmer's house.
When I got these, with it came a brand new, the guy that's on the Griffin, the leader of the Bretonians?
Yeah, Leon LaCour.
Okay.
sealed in a box with plastic,
nice.
like totally sealed. Which for some reason, some people don't like that because sometimes Games Workshop didn't put the model, like the full components in there, and then even though it's like 30 years later, you think you're getting this awesome sealed box because it is nostalgic. It's really nice to get the sealed box.
Yeah,
sometimes,
it is fun.
I think, with the old ones. Yeah. But sometimes what happens is you actually get the sealed box.
You got a bummer.
And you got a bad one, right? And so sometimes people don't like that in the collector area, which is interesting. But I did end up getting that, and I traded that. I've got some of the old, really, really old hobgoblins. I got a big lot.
So cool.
Oh, I've got a big Chaos Dwarf hobgoblin.
Yeah, they go with the Chaos Dwarves.
Oh,
well,
man.
I almost think that they're before those because the 5th or 6th edition ones that had like sort of the big noses and the hats, like the hobgoblins, these are before those. Actually, they're older.
They got the crunchy hat. Right?
I mean, I might as well just show them to you, just because I actually have a mixture of them. But I'll show them to you what I mean.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I know which ones you're talking about.
He's as bad as you, Rusty. He's hoarding all the stuff we don't know about.
Well, see, he's getting all this stuff locally because he has this big giant game store.
Yeah, that's not even fair.
That are just getting rid of stuff.
I barely have running water and electricity out here in the sticks, and he's got that. Jeez.
Yeah.
My favorite ones may not be the oldest because I have some ones that are even older, but these ones are pretty old too. I have a whole bunch of these. I don't know if you recognize them.
Yeah,
but they're basically.
I don't recognize them, actually.
Okay, so they look. I actually really like these ones, and they have a command that look a bit different. And so I have about 20 of these and like fixed ones like these.
Oh my lord!
Then with a command that look different. But then I have some of the really older ones, I believe, like this guy here. These are the C series ones.
Oh yeah, no, I have seen those. Oh my gosh!
And like this guy here, it's hard. I mean, you'd really have to know the model looking this far back to really recognize it. Probably
you're going back to 3rd edition there.
Yeah, that's old stuff. I've never seen those on eBay or anything.
Yeah, well, when I ended up getting rid of that guy, the Bretonian in the box, it was for a huge lot of these. I probably have, because these ones, the ones that are my favorites, that are the fixed ones, like these guys here, I probably have a unit of 20 with command of these, and then I probably have another 10 of varying types of hobgoblins to mix in that are older, and I got them through that trade. And so
that's awesome.
And the funny thing is you might ask, like, well, what are you going to use those for? I actually really like the old AD&D. I'm going to click back here. I like the old AD&D look of hobgoblins, like the orange brownie look, like from Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I didn't know. I was thinking that I was going to use them either for 3rd edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle someday, or use them like within games of 28 millimeter games of the TSR battle system mass battle. If I use 28 millimeter, because and even just for a painting project on my channel, like an old school painting project, because I just like them so much. And to me, it's really nostalgic. That sort of orange, ruddy kind of hobgoblin look is what I like.
Yeah, that's what I always pictured goblins as. And then when Games Workshop, I discovered them and it was all greenskins, I was like, no, they're like ruddy reddish brownish color is what they are.
Chris says Sentry Box is great for ancient stuff. They actually have probably so on the one hand, they probably have the best section for old school miniatures that they've ever had right now, but they also have people there that know what it's worth. And so there was a time when you could go in, and like a lot of gaming places, you could just go in and get stuff for next to nothing. Now it's better than eBay, and like you're not paying for shipping, and like they're fairer than that, but it's not like going in to just trade with folks like for stuff.
Not a garage sale. Yeah.
And it's also not like the Facebook trading groups, people are pretty good with each other. I find for the older miniatures, that's like one of the better places, I think, sometimes to get deals and to work with people.
Agreed. Yeah.
I still buy single minis, and I occasionally will buy minis. You can occasionally get a decent deal at Century Box, like for the old school stuff. But yeah. So that's kind of a little weird segue that I didn't plan on.
Well, I prodded John with the Bretonians.
Yeah, I don't know how I got on that. I was like, should I go get more stuff, guys? You want to see more stuff?
Let's break out the toys, man.
Well, I've watched people do YouTube videos that they just go through their pile of shame or their lead pile or whatever, and I'll sit there and watch for 45 minutes somebody sort through their old minis, and I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Or at Rusty's house. We've done the same thing at Rusty's house. He pulls out box after box of painted or unpainted stuff from every genre, from 70s on up to today. It's like a museum. It's outstanding.
It's funny. I have a lot of... I've collected a lot of stuff over the last number of years. And the funny thing is when it comes time to trading, I have so little that I'm willing to trade. That I have like this large amount of metal. Like I went out and I bought the little cubies. I think on my intro video for my old school stuff, it shows me pulling some miniatures out and I have several of these little cubie things with all the metal miniatures in them. But then when it comes time to trading, I'm like, yeah, I could like put them all on one piece of paper and take a picture, and it's not even covered, the paper. It's just like a couple little groupings. That's what I'm willing to get rid of in order to get something.
I know. I'm the same way. It's like I got tons of stuff and probably stuff I'll never paint, but there's most of it I got that I don't want to part with. It might be something that came with a trade that's like, is not, but that it's a handful of stuff. Yeah.
There's these aren't hobgoblins. I think they're ogres, but because they were sculpted a bit like hobgoblins, I kept him, and I really felt like he would be a great leader for even if I used those guys for Dragon Rampant, a game like that. I don't know if you guys have ever I don't know if it's Nick Lund is the sculptor, but this is an ogre
chunk of metal. Yeah.
And like he's got this shield with the spear coming out there, but it's like an ogre, and he's huge because like he goes next to these guys, and he's like definitely the leader, right?
Big guy.
It's the old style of metal.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's And so I had that guy too and then because I got that guy and I liked him so much, I found the same sculptor did this one, which is very similar to this one. I thought he was really cool too. I know it's kind of hard to see. But anyway, a little cool collection. So we are about a half hour past when we normally kind of pull the pin. Oh, look, like even the alarm went off.
Oh, Mel sent me a bunch of pictures of what I printed out today. He's got them based out already.
I didn't want to ask, but what did you print out for him, just out of curiosity?
Well, I could probably bring it up. Let me check here. See if I can share here. Share screen. Yes. And there we go. Sure. You guys see that?
I'll pull it up here. Oh, I can. Well, first I add it to the stage, and then I blow it up.
There we go.
Here you go. Nice.
Well done. Oh, BattleTech stuff, huh?
Yeah, you can see there. Those are mobile HQs, a deployed mobile HQ, which is the big wide one.
Oh, I like that.
And then the HQ, mobile HQ, is the one next to it.
Okay.
And you can see the mechs off the side and a couple vehicles, some demolishers, and a Badger APC for testing. Okay. And there's the mechs that I printed off.
Cool.
Nice.
Those are nice looking.
Yeah. Those are the Goliaths. He said they were a pain to put together.
Okay.
You had to put the legs on the torso, and then you had to put the turret on.
Okay.
So,
that's impressive. Now. Yeah, the whole
cool.
Try not to even think about 3D printing. Last time Rusty and I were talking about it, we kind of came to the conclusion that it's probably not something that I would invest in at this time.
Well, it's paid itself off for me already.
For you, it has, but like for me, I'd be better off if I paid somebody to print something if I needed it.
Yeah,
I guess for now.
I think it'd become addicting for you. I think you'd start doing bicycles and stuff for your terrain, and I think you'd be doing all kinds of stuff.
I've got wire for that. You know that, Palmer. I make them out of wire. Oh, that's nice. That's a good old classic too.
Oh yeah, classic ogre.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that a Hero Quest?
Yeah.
I think that's Hero Quest. Yeah,
it was
cool.
From the old GW line of stuff.
Yep. Well, gentlemen, I think for me it's time to pull the plug.
Me too. I'll be scooping snow in the morning because it was snowing this afternoon. It's supposed to be.
Yeah, we got 4 inches of snow tonight.
Yeah, I'm saying we had at least 3 on top of what we had.
On top of our 2 feet that we got this last week.
Oh,
I guess it's Battle Masters Ogre, not
yeah, that's what I was thinking when you said that. What did you say?
Hero Quest is what I said.
I was thinking Battle Masters.
Yeah.
My little brother had that game back in the day. So yeah, I probably need to shut her down too.
Yeah, the Battle Masters was actually GW Miniatures.
Yep. Yeah. So, anyways, well, we're doing another show in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
we think.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Over here on my channel.
All right.
If you guys are up for it, you're more than welcome to join. I think I can. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn, even though Rusty's hosting. So, all right. Well, thanks everybody for joining the chat. It's been fun as usual. And we will see everybody in a couple of weeks over at Elcorex, Rusty's channel.
We'll see you.
And just a quick thing for you guys that are doing painting challenges or just painting anything up this month, feel free to share it on the Facebook page. People have been sharing a little bit more. We have actually had a little bit of an uptick on the Facebook page, I would say. I don't know, Rusty, if you've been getting them too, but I've been approving a lot more memberships lately.
Yeah, we went from about 120 members. I think we're close to 200 in the last month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's pretty, it's got a bit of a jump, so it's kind of nice. That's fun.
Yeah, I think we're getting at least 1 or 2 a day.
It's cool.
More musty is good. Yeah.
Yes.
That's right. More musties. More musties converge.
More musties. We'll have to get t-shirts.
That's right. We got to think of what that's going to look like. What kind of image is going to be on there?
Yeah.
So
musties unite.
Somebody hold their nose.
Maybe like Oscar the Grouch, like Oscar the Grouch coming out of the
garbage. Yeah, that'd be good.
I envisioned something like what's his name, Captain Jack Sparrow with his drink.
Yeah,
in the basement.
That's good too.
Get it, and you have the woman off the side pointing out, "Get out of the basement."
I stand there, get off my lawn.
That's right. On that note, everybody.
Right. Yep.
Have a good evening, and we'll see you next
Good night,
time.
everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Everybody.